The old warship floated through empty space like a ghost. For 300 years, the Vengeance had drifted between the stars, silent and forgotten. Inside its metal halls, 12 humans slept in frozen chambers, unaware that their species was thought to be extinct. The ship was dark and cold. Ice covered the walls. The air had not moved in centuries. The engines were dead. The lights were off. It looked like a tomb floating in the endless black of space. No one knew it was there. No, one was looking for it. The galaxy had moved on without humanity. The Zorvath Empire found the ship by accident. Their scanner operator, a creature with 6 eyes and purple skin, noticed something strange near the Kepler system. It was metal, but not an asteroid. It was too regular in shape, too purposeful in design. The operator called his captain. Captain, Vexler studied the readings. The object was a ship, but not any design in their database. It was old, very old. The metal showed signs of 3 centuries in space. Micrometeorite impacts had left tiny scars across its hull, but the ship was intact. Send a boarding team, Vexler ordered. I want to know what that thing is. 20. Zorvath soldiers prepared to board the strange vessel. They wore armored suits and carried energy rifles. They did not expect trouble. After all, the ship was dead. It had no power signatures. It was just another piece of space junk, probably from some extinct civilization. The boarding shuttle attached to the Vengeance's hull. The soldiers cut through the outer door with plasma torches. They entered slowly, their lights cutting through the darkness. Their boots made clicking sounds on the metal floor. The sound echoed through empty corridors. Temperature is below freezing, one soldier reported. No atmosphere, no life signs. They moved deeper into the ship. They found crew quarters with personal items still on desks. Pictures of families, books, coffee cups. Everything was covered in frost. It was like the crew had just stepped out and never returned. Then they found the cryo bay. 12 pods stood in 2 rows. Each pod had a window. Inside each window was a face, human faces. The soldiers stepped back in shock. They had been told humans were extinct. They had been told humans destroyed themselves in a war 300 years ago. But here were 12 humans, frozen but intact. One soldier, younger than the others, moved closer to examine the pods. He saw control panels with symbols he did not understand. Curious, he touched one of the screens. The screen lit up. The soldier jumped back, but it was too late. He had activated something. Red lights began flashing. Alarms screamed through the ship. The ice on the pods began to crack. Steam hissed from vents. The temperature in the room started to rise. The pods were opening. Lieutenant Amy Walker's eyes opened first. She had been dreaming of Earth, of green fields and blue skies. Now she saw alien faces staring at her through the glass. 6 eyes, purple skin, weapons pointed at her pod. Her military training kicked in immediately. The pod door hissed open. Amy rolled out, her muscles remembering their training despite 3 centuries of sleep. There was a weapon rack on the wall, just where it should be. She grabbed a rifle and fired, before the aliens could react. 2 Zorvath soldiers fell. The others scrambled for cover. More pods were opening. Commander Jake Morrison stumbled out, shaking off the cold. He saw Amy firing at something. He saw aliens in his ship. His mind was foggy from the long sleep, but he knew enough. They were under attack. "All hands battle stations," he shouted, his voice rough from centuries of silence. Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper was next. He did not waste time with questions. He ran to the nearest console and began emergency startup procedures. The ship needed power. Without power, they were sitting ducks. Navigator Lisa Johnson rolled from her pod and immediately checked their position. The star charts on her console were wrong. The stars had moved. That meant significant time had passed. Years, decades, maybe more. One by one, the 12 crew members emerged. Weapons Specialist Kyle Bennett, Communications Officer Megan Phillips, Science Officer Dr. Paul Adams, Pilot Danny Torres, Gunner Ashley Brown, Security Chief Tony Martinez, Engineers Nicole Smith and Sam Jackson. each one ready to fight despite the confusion. The Zorvath soldiers retreated, firing as they went. They shouted into their radios in a language the humans did not understand, but the tone was clear: panic. Jake took command quickly. His mind was becoming clearer. Ryan, get us power. Kyle, weapon status. Amy, secure the ship. Everyone else, to your stations. Ryan's fingers flew over the engineering console. The ship's reactor had been in cold shutdown for centuries, but it was designed to last. He initiated the startup sequence. Deep in the ship's belly, the fusion reactor began to warm. Lights flickered on throughout the vessel. Power coming online. Commander, Ryan reported, 30% and rising. Outside, 50 Zorvath warships had surrounded them. The alien fleet commander, Admiral Kexthon, appeared on their newly activated main screen. He had golden scales and 4 arms. He spoke in broken English, the words clearly difficult for his alien mouth. Humans, you will surrender. You are outnumbered, you are outgunned. We thought your kind was dead. You should have stayed that way. Jake stood straight despite the weakness in his legs from the long sleep. Who are you? Where is Earth? What year is it? The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Earth? Earth is gone, human. Your species destroyed itself 300 years ago. You are relics, fossils. Surrender, and we will make your end quick. Lisa had finished her calculations. She whispered to Jake, Commander, we're 400 light-years from Earth's position, and based on stellar drift, we've been asleep for 307 years. Jake felt cold despite the warming room. 300 years, Earth gone. But the alien had said something else. Something that did not make sense. Humans had destroyed themselves. Jake remembered the last days. Earth had been under attack. Alien ships had filled the sky. They had not destroyed themselves. They had been destroyed. You're lying, Jake said to the screen. The alien commander's scales shifted color, perhaps in amusement. Lying? Why would we lie to the dead? Your world burned. Your colonies fell. Your people are extinct. Except for you. And, not for much longer, Kyle Bennett had been working at his station. Commander, I've got something. Main weapons are online. The gravitational lance is operational. The gravitational lance, humanity's last and greatest weapon. Built in the final days of Earth, when desperate scientists had thrown every wild theory at the wall to see what stuck. It bent space itself into a weapon it had never been properly tested. Until now. Target the 3 largest ships, Jake ordered. Fire! Kyle pressed the button. Space itself seemed to ripple around the Vengeance. An invisible beam of twisted gravity shot out. It hit 3 Zorvath dreadnoughts simultaneously. Each ship was 5 times the size of the human vessel. It did not matter. The alien ships crumpled like paper in a giant's fist. Metal compressed to the size of basketballs then exploded outward in clouds of debris. The gravitational forces had crushed them so completely that not even atoms remained intact in some places. The bridge of the Vengeance fell silent. Even Kyle looked shocked at what the weapon had done. The remaining Zorvath ships began firing, but their shots bounced off the Vengeance's shields. The human ship's defenses held easily. Admiral Kexthon was no longer laughing. His golden scales had turned pale. What are you? This is impossible. Human technology was primitive. We studied your world before you. He stopped talking, realizing he had said too much. Before you what? Jake demanded. Before you destroyed us? Before you murdered billions of innocent people? The alien cut the communication. The Zorvath fleet was retreating, sending messages across the galaxy. The humans could not understand the language, but Megan was already working on translation programs. Commander, she said after a few minutes, I'm picking up a lot of traffic. They're saying the humans have returned. They're calling for reinforcements. They're terrified. Jake looked at his crew. 12 people, 1 ship. They were all that remained of humanity as far as they knew, but they had the Vengeance. They had weapons the aliens clearly did not expect, and they had 300 years of questions that needed answers. "Lisa, plot a course to Earth's last position," Jake ordered. "I want to see what happened to our home." "Commander," Ryan said quietly, "if Earth is really gone, if we're all that's left, then we'll make them pay," Jake said coldly. "Every last one of them." The Vengeance turned toward the Sol system. Its engines, powered by controlled black holes, pushed it faster than light. The crew prepared for what they might find. They checked weapons. They reviewed combat protocols. They tried not to think about their families, their friends, everyone they had known who was now 3 centuries dead. But as they traveled, Megan made a discovery in the ship's computer. "Commander, you need to see this. We weren't the only ship to escape. The computer shows 11 other vessels that went into deep sleep. They're out there somewhere waiting for our signal." Jake felt hope for the first time since waking. 12 ships. Perhaps 150 humans total. It was not much against a galaxy of enemies, but it was something. It was a beginning. The Vengeance continued toward Earth, toward answers, toward vengeance. The galaxy had thought humanity was extinct. They were about to learn how wrong the Salvek Empire thought they were clever. They had moved their 3 million human slaves to 17 hidden facilities on dead worlds, places not on any star chart, places they believed the human fleet would never find. They were wrong. Megan Phillips had spent months breaking into alien communication networks. She traced coded messages, followed credit transfers, and tracked supply ships. Every piece of information led her closer to the truth. Finally, she found them all. "Commander, I've located every facility," she reported to Jake Morrison. "They're holding 3 million of our people in underground prisons on dead moons and asteroids." Jake studied the data with his captains. The human fleet had grown to 50 ships now, new vessels built with technology recovered from Earth's ruins, and improved with knowledge gained from battles. Each ship was a weapon of mass destruction. "They're scattered across the galaxy's edge," Captain Steve Williams observed. "They want us to split up, make ourselves vulnerable." "Then we hit them all at once," Jake decided. 50 ships, 17 targets. We free our people and end the Salvek Empire forever. The coordinated attack began at dawn, Earth Standard Time. It was a memorial to their lost world. Human ships appeared at all 17 facilities simultaneously. The Salvek guards never had a chance. At the largest facility, Jake led the assault personally. The Vengeance and 2 sister ships faced 500 Salvek guards and automated defenses. The guards tried to use the human slaves as shields, threatening to kill them all. Jake's response was swift and brutal. The Vengeance deployed special forces in powered armor. They teleported directly into the facility using quantum tunneling technology. The Salvek had never seen humans move so fast, hit so hard. The powered armor made each human soldier worth 100 regular troops. The battle inside the facility was short. Human soldiers appeared from nowhere, their armor making them immune to Salvek weapons. They moved through corridors like death itself. Every Salvek guard fell. Not one human slave was harmed. In the slave pens, 3-year-old Lucy touched a soldier's armored hand. She had been born in slavery and had never seen a free human before. "Are you real?" she whispered. The soldier removed his helmet, showing a scarred but kind face. "We're real, little one. And you're going home." Similar scenes played out at all 17 facilities. 3 million humans were freed in a single day. The Salvek Empire's leadership tried to flee, but Captain Ruth Garcia and the Nemesis were waiting. Their command ship was caught trying to jump to hyperspace. "Please," the Salvek Emperor begged on the communication channel. "We surrender. We'll pay reparations. We'll serve humanity." Ruth's response was cold. "You had your chance to free them. You chose to hide them instead. You chose wrong." The Nemesis fired once. The Salvek command ship became an expanding cloud of atoms. The Emperor and his entire government were gone. Within hours, the Salvek Empire collapsed. Their subject worlds declared independence. Their military surrendered unconditionally. 6 months later, the Galactic Council met for the last time in its old form. The massive station that had been the center of galactic governance for 10,000 years now hosted a very different meeting. Admiral John Davis represented humanity. He commanded the human fleet, now numbering 200 ships. Behind him stood survivors from Earth, freed slaves, and children born in freedom. They filled the council chambers that had once banned humans from entering. "The old order is dead," John announced to the assembled species. "You built your empires on genocide and slavery. You destroyed Earth. You enslaved our people. That ends now and forever." He presented the new laws. Any species caught enslaving sentience would face complete annihilation. No exceptions. No appeals. No mercy. Trade routes would be protected by human patrols. Pirates and slavers would be hunted down and destroyed. "You're making yourselves the galaxy's police," the Thraxian ambassador protested. They were a minor species that had not participated in Earth's destruction. "No," John corrected. "We're making ourselves the galaxy's immune system. We're the response to the disease of slavery and genocide. Accept it or face the consequences." The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to humanity's terms. They had no choice. Human ships patrolled every major system. Human weapons could destroy any fleet, any world. The balance of power had shifted completely and permanently. On New Eden, Jake Morrison stood with his original crew. The planet had transformed in just 1 year. Cities rose from empty fields. Farms spread across valleys. Schools taught human children their real history, not the lies the aliens had spread. Amy Walker had become the military governor of the restored colonies. She ensured every human settlement was defended. Never again would humans be caught unprepared. Ryan Cooper led the engineering projects. He built shipyards that produced new vessels monthly. Each ship was more advanced than the last, incorporating technology learned from defeated enemies and improved with human innovation. Lisa Johnson mapped the galaxy, finding every lost human colony. Some had survived in hiding for 3 centuries. Others were empty worlds waiting for humans to return. Each discovery added to humanity's growing domain. Kyle Bennett trained the next generation of weapons specialists. He taught them about the gravitational lance, the Omega weapon, the nanoswarms. But more importantly, he taught them when not to use these terrible weapons. Dr. Paul Adams worked with the freed slaves, helping them heal from centuries of trauma. Many had never known freedom. They had to learn how to make choices, how to live without chains. It was slow work, but necessary. The Vengeance still patrolled the borders of human space. Its hull bore new scars from 100 battles. On its side, engineers had added the names of every human who died during the occupation, 43 billion names, etched in metal forever. Other species called them the demons in the void. Parents told their children stories about the humans who refused to die, who came back from extinction to destroy their tormentors. The stories were meant to frighten, but they also served as warnings. Never again would anyone mistake human kindness for weakness. Jake received a message from the edge of known space. A probe had detected signals from another galaxy. The Voidlings were there trying to rebuild. They thought distance would protect them. "Commander," Megan said, "we could reach them in 6 months with the new engines. Should we pursue?" Jake thought about it. The Voidlings had fled rather than face justice. They had abandoned their slaves and territory. They were no longer a threat, but they had participated in Earth's destruction. They had used humans for entertainment, making them fight to the death for sport. "Prepare the fleet," Jake decided. "They think they can escape justice by running far enough. They're wrong. There is no distance far enough. No hiding place secure enough. They will answer for their crimes." But before they could leave, something unexpected happened. A ship appeared near New Eden. It was not from any known species. It was ancient, older than the Galactic Council itself. The being that contacted them was made of pure thought, existing partially in another dimension. "Humans," it said, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "We are the ancients. We have watched your species for millennia. We watched you rise from your caves. We watched you reach the stars. We watched you face extinction. And we watched you refuse to die. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vengeance facing this new mystery. What do you want? To offer you a choice, the Ancient replied. You can continue your path of vengeance, hunting down every species that wronged you. Or you can choose a different path. Become the guardians of this galaxy. Protect the innocent. Prevent others from suffering as you have suffered. We already protect the innocent, Jake replied. We freed every human slave. We destroyed the slavers. Yes, the Ancient agreed. But there are other species enslaved by powers you have not yet met. Other innocents facing extinction. You have the power to save them. The question is, will you? Jake looked at his crew. They had started this journey seeking vengeance. They had found it. Worlds had burned. Empires had fallen. Humanity was free and powerful. But was that enough? Show us, Jake said finally. Show us these others who need help. The Ancient projected images into their minds. Species being harvested by machine intelligences. Worlds being consumed by hive minds. Civilizations facing extinction just as humanity had faced it. Jake made his decision. We'll help them, but on our terms. Any species we save learns the price of freedom. They learn to defend themselves. They learn to never be victims again. The Ancient seemed pleased. Then humanity's true destiny begins now. You are no longer just survivors. You are protectors. You are the shield against the darkness. Jake turned to his crew. Prepare the fleet. We have work to do. The human fleet, 200 ships strong and growing, turned toward new challenges. They would hunt the voidlings, yes, but they would also save others from suffering humanity's fate. They would teach the galaxy that genocide had consequences, that slavery would not be tolerated, that the strong could not prey on the weak without facing humanity's wrath. On New Eden, children played in parks their parents had built. They learned about Earth, the world they had never seen. They learned about the occupation, the 3 centuries of slavery, but most importantly, they learned about the awakening. How 12 humans in one ship had started the liberation of. The Krellin Federation had assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 2,000 warships gathered near the binary stars of the Helios system. Each ship was armed with weapons that had conquered worlds. Together they thought they were unstoppable. Admiral Grax commanded this massive force. He was old, even for a Krellin. His blue crystalline body had seen 100 battles. He had never lost. He studied the reports from Zorvan Prime carefully. 13 human ships had destroyed 500 Zorvath vessels and a planet. But Grax had 2,000 ships. The math was simple. The human fleet arrived together. 13 ships against 2,000. On any normal day, it would be suicide. But this was not a normal day, and these were not normal ships. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance looking at the enemy fleet. It filled his entire view screen. Ships upon ships, stretching as far as sensors could detect. Behind him stood the freed slaves who had asked to watch. They wanted to see their captors fall. "Commander, they're hailing us," Megan Phillips announced. Admiral Grax appeared on screen. His crystalline form reflected light in strange patterns. "Humans, you have caused enough damage. Zorvan Prime is gone. Billions are dead. The galaxy offers you a choice. Surrender now, and we will give you a quick death. Fight, and we will capture you. We will dissect you. We will learn your weapons' secrets. Then we will use them to ensure no human ever threatens us again." Jake looked at the alien admiral with cold eyes. "You want our weapons' secrets? Let me show you one." He turned to Kyle Bennett. "Release the nanoswarm. Full spread." From the 13 human ships, clouds of invisible machines spread through space. Each machine was smaller than a speck of dust. They were programmed with one simple instruction: consume enemy ships. The swarm reached the first line of Krellin vessels. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then hull plates began to dissolve. Small holes appeared, growing larger by the second. The Krellin crews did not understand what was happening until it was too late. The machines ate through metal, plastic, flesh, everything. They converted matter into more machines, spreading exponentially. One ship became 2 infected, 2 became 4, 4 became 16. The plague of hungry machines spread through the Krellin fleet like fire through dry wood. Admiral Grax watched in horror as his ships began to disappear, not exploding, not breaking apart, just dissolving into nothing. What is this? What have you done? 300 years ago you helped destroy Earth, Jake replied. You took our world. You enslaved our people. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would forgive? The Krellin fleet tried to respond. They fired their weapons wildly, hoping to destroy the human ships before the swarm consumed them all. But the human vessels had learned from the previous battle. They stayed mobile, shields at maximum, returning fire with precision. Captain Steve Williams and the Retribution fired singularity bombs into the densest clusters of enemy ships. The temporary black holes pulled dozens of vessels together, crushing them into balls of compressed metal before the singularities collapsed. Captain Ruth Garcia commanded the Nemesis with deadly efficiency. Her ship's quantum disruptors shifted entire squadrons of Krellin ships out of phase with reality. They flickered like ghosts, their crews screaming in dimensions humans could not see, before vanishing forever. Captain Bill Murphy's Devastator lived up to its name. The ship's gravitational lance carved through the Krellin formation like a sword through paper. Every sweep deleted a line of enemy vessels, crushing them into atoms. But then something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared on the scanners. It was massive, 10 times the size of any human vessel. It was not Krellin. It was something older, more advanced. Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from that ship, Dr. Paul Adams reported. It's using technology I don't recognize. The ship sent a message. The being that appeared on screen was unlike anything the humans had seen. It seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting and flowing like liquid light. I am the Etherian Prime, it said. We are one of the 5 species that participated in humanity's destruction, but we come in peace. Jake's hand moved to the weapons console. Peace? After what you did? We were wrong, the Etherian admitted. We followed the others out of fear. Fear of what humanity might become. But seeing what you have become anyway, we realize our mistake. We wish to negotiate. There is no negotiation, Jake said coldly. Free every human slave, return every stolen world, or be destroyed. We have already begun, the Etherian replied. Every human in our territory has been freed. We have ships, ready to transport them to worlds of your choosing. We offer medical aid for those who need it. We offer technology to help rebuild. We ask only that you spare our worlds. Jake looked at his crew. Amy Walker shook her head. They could not trust aliens, not after what happened. But Dr. Adams looked thoughtful. Commander, we need somewhere to take the freed slaves. We need resources to rebuild. Maybe we should listen. Before Jake could respond, another message came through. The mantids, insect-like beings with multiple arms, were also offering surrender. They too had freed their human slaves. They too offered aid and resources. The Krellin fleet was down to 500 ships. The nanoswarm had consumed the rest. Admiral Grax, his crystalline form cracked with stress, sent a desperate message. We surrender. Please stop the swarm. We will free all humans. We will give you anything. Jake made a decision. Kyle, deactivate the swarm. The machine stopped eating and dissolved into harmless dust. The surviving Krellin ships hung in space, damaged and helpless. This is the deal, Jake announced to all species listening. Every human slave gets freed immediately. Every human world gets returned. Any species that keeps slaves or attacks humans gets the same treatment as Zorvan Prime. No exceptions, no mercy. The various alien species agreed quickly. They had seen what 13 human ships could do. They did not want to test the humans further. Over the next weeks, millions of human slaves were freed across the galaxy. The Etherians and Mantids provided medical care and transportation. Abandoned human colonies were reopened. For the first time in 3 centuries, humans walked free on their own worlds. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching as transport ships delivered freed slaves to New Eden, a planet that had once been a human colony. The world was green and alive, ready for humans to rebuild. An old woman, one of the first they had freed, approached him. "Commander, my granddaughter was born yesterday, the first free human born on this world in 300 years. We named her Hope." Jake smiled, the first real smile since he had awakened. Hope, that's a good name. But even as they celebrated, Jake knew the work was not done. The Voidlings had fled to another galaxy rather than face human justice. The Salvek Empire was hiding human slaves, thinking the humans would not find them. Other species watched and waited, wondering if humanity's anger would fade. It would not fade. The 13 ships had become 50 as more human vessels were built, each one armed with terrible weapons, each one crewed by humans who remembered what had been done to their species. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity. But fear was not enough. Jake wanted more. He wanted the galaxy to understand that humanity would never again be victims, never again be slaves, never again trust in the mercy of others. "Commander," Megan said, "I'm intercepting communications from the Salvek Empire. They're moving human slaves to hidden facilities. They think we won't find them." Jake's expression hardened. "They're wrong. Plot a course. It's time the Salvek learned what happens to slavers." The human fleet prepared to move again. The freed, slaves on New Eden watched their protectors go, knowing that more of their kind would soon be free. The galaxy watched in fear, knowing that humanity's vengeance was far from over. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun. And any who stood against them would learn why the survivors of Earth had named their first ship Vengeance. 500 Zorvath warships formed a wall in space. They were arranged in perfect formation, weapons powered and shields at maximum. Behind them floated Zorvan Prime, a blue-green world that looked almost like Earth once had. 40 billion Zorvath lived on that planet. It was the jewel of their empire. Admiral Kexathon commanded the defense fleet from his flagship. He had studied the reports from Threshold. One human ship had destroyed 20 warships and damaged a major city, but Kexathon had 500 ships. The humans could not possibly win. The Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace alone. On the bridge, Jake Morrison looked at the enemy fleet without fear. The freed slaves were safe in the cargo bays, but many had asked to watch the battle. They wanted to see their tormentors face justice. "Commander, they're hailing us," Megan Phillips reported. "Put them on screen," Jake ordered. Admiral Kexthon appeared, his purple scales shimmering with confidence. "Human ship, I am offering you one chance. Surrender now, and we will give you a quick death. Continue this foolish attack, and we will capture you alive. You will beg for death before we are done." Jake stood straight, his voice calm and cold. "Admiral, I'm going to give you one chance too. Release every human slave in your empire. Return every stolen human world. Then maybe some of you will survive what's coming." The Admiral laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. "You are one ship. We are 500. You humans always were arrogant. That is why we destroyed you." "No," Jake corrected him. "You destroyed us because you were afraid. You saw what humans could become and you were terrified. So you struck first. You killed billions of innocents. You enslaved the survivors. You thought you were safe." Jake paused, then smiled coldly. "You were wrong." He nodded to Megan. "Broadcast this on all frequencies. Make sure every ship, every station, every person in this system hears it." When the channels were open, Jake spoke clearly. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth warship Vengeance. 300 years ago, your empire attacked Earth without warning. You murdered 9 billion innocent people. You destroyed our world. You enslaved our survivors." He activated a screen showing the freed slaves in the cargo bay. Many were crying. Others stood proud, finally free after generations of bondage. These people were your slaves. Their parents were slaves. Their grandparents were slaves. For 300 years, you've used humans as property. You've bred us like animals. You've killed us for sport. That ends today." Jake turned to Dr. Paul Adams. Is the Omega weapon ready? Paul's face was grim. Yes, Commander. But once we fire it, Zorvan Prime will die. Every living thing on it. 40 billion souls. They killed 9 billion of ours, Amy Walker said from her station. They've enslaved millions more for 3 centuries. How many humans died in their mines? How many in their fighting pits? Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about Earth, now just empty space. He thought about the old woman who had cried when freed. He thought about children born in chains. Admiral Kexthun, he said to the screen, you have 6 hours to evacuate your world. This is not a bluff. This is not a negotiation. In 6 hours, Zorvan Prime will be destroyed. The Admiral's purple scales turned pale. You're bluffing. No single weapon could destroy a planet. Jake turned to Kyle Bennett. Fire the Omega weapon. Kyle's hands moved over his console. Deep in the Vengeance, the Omega weapon charged. It drew power from the ship's contained black hole, converting it into something far more dangerous. A red beam, thin as a pencil, shot from the ship. The beam passed through the Zorvath fleet like they were not there. It ignored shields, armor, everything. It struck Zorvan Prime at the northern pole and disappeared into the ground. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground began to crack. A red glow spread from the impact point. The crack widened, reaching deeper into the planet's crust. Magma began to bubble up. The crack spread south, growing wider with each passing second. On Zorvan Prime, panic erupted. Billions of Zorvath ran for transport ships. The emergency evacuation began, but there were not enough ships. Not nearly enough. The planetary government begged for mercy on all channels. Please, the planetary governor cried. We surrender. We'll free all humans. We'll return your worlds. Please stop this. Jake watched the planet crack apart. You had 300 years to show mercy. You chose not to. The Zorvath fleet attacked desperately. 500 ships fired everything they had. Beams of energy that could vaporize asteroids. Nuclear missiles by the thousands. Exotic weapons that bent reality itself. All of it hit the Vengeance's shields and bounced off. The shields, powered by the same black hole that fed the Omega weapon, absorbed the energy and converted it to power. The more the Zorvath attacked, the stronger the shields became. Danny Torres flew the ship through the enemy formation. Ashley Brown and Kyle Bennett returned fire. The gravitational lance twisted space, crushing a dozen ships at once. Antimatter torpedoes erased others from existence. The Vengeance was untouchable, unstoppable. But then, something unexpected happened. 12 new contacts appeared on the scanner. Commander, Lisa Johnson said, her voice excited. It's them, the other human ships. One by one, human warships dropped out of hyperspace. The Retribution, commanded by Captain Steve Williams. The Nemesis, under Captain Ruth Garcia. The Devastator, led by Captain Bill Murphy. 9 more ships, each one armed with the same terrible weapons as the Vengeance. Steve Williams appeared on the screen. He was older than Jake, with gray hair and hard eyes. Brother, we received your signal. We've been waiting 3 centuries for this moment. How can we help? The Zorvath fleet, Jake said simply. Steve smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Consider it done. The 12 human ships moved as one. They had trained together before Earth fell, and 3 centuries of sleep had not dulled their coordination. They struck from 12 directions at once. The Retribution fired singularity bombs. Miniature black holes appeared in the middle of Zorvath formations, pulling ships in and crushing them to nothing. The Nemesis released nanoswarms that ate through hulls and crews alike. The Devastator used quantum disruptors that shifted enemy ships partially out of reality, leaving them trapped between dimensions. The battle lasted less than an hour. 500 Zorvath ships became expanding clouds of debris. Not a single human ship was even scratched. Below them, Zorvan Prime was dying. The crack had spread around the entire planet. Continents were breaking apart. Oceans were boiling. The atmosphere was on fire. Billions of Zorvath who could not evacuate screamed as their world ended. Some, of the freed slaves watched from the Vengeance's observation decks. Many cried, but not from sadness. They cried from relief. Their tormentors were facing justice at last. An old man who had been born in slavery spoke quietly. My grandmother told me stories about Earth. She said it was beautiful. Green forests, blue oceans, cities full of light. They took that from us. Now we take their world from them. 6 hours after the Omega weapon fired, Zorvan Prime collapsed. The planet broke into massive chunks that spiraled inward. The gravity well collapsed, pulling the pieces together, crushing them into a ball of molten rock that would eventually cool into a lifeless asteroid. 40 billion Zorvath were dead. Their capital was gone. Their fleet was destroyed. The 13 human ships hung in space, watching the death of a world. Jake felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a grim sense of justice. They had done what was necessary. "Commander," Megan said, "I'm receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Every species is talking about what just happened. They're terrified." "Good," Jake replied. "Fear will keep them from trying again." Steve Williams contacted him again. "Jake, we've been monitoring communications too. The Krellin Federation is mobilizing their fleet. 2,000 ships. They think they can stop us with numbers." Jake looked at his fellow captain. "Then we teach them the same lesson. We visit every species that participated in Earth's destruction. We free every human slave. We reclaim every human world." "And if they resist?" Steve asked. Jake looked at the debris field that had been Zorvan Prime. "Then they join the Zorvath." The human fleet turned away from the dying system. They had work to do. Millions of humans were still enslaved across the galaxy. The Krellin Federation, the Voidlings, the Etherians, the Mantids, they had all participated in humanity's destruction. Each would face judgment. Each would learn what the Zorvath had learned. Humanity was back, and mercy was no longer in their vocabulary. The Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, his hands gripping the rail in front of him. His crew was silent. They all knew what they should see. Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Home instead, they saw nothing. Empty space where Earth should have been, not even debris. Just darkness and distant stars. Lisa Johnson checked her instruments 3 times. "Commander, these are the correct coordinates. This is where Earth should be, but there's nothing here, not even an asteroid field." Dr. Paul Adams was scanning the area. "I'm detecting trace radiation, exotic particles. Something happened here. Something big. But it was centuries ago. Whatever destroyed Earth, it was thorough." Jake felt sick. He had hoped the aliens were lying. He had hoped to find Earth wounded but alive. Instead, there was nothing. 9 billion people. Gone. Cities, forests, oceans, all of it simply erased from existence. "What about Mars?" he asked quietly. Lisa adjusted their course. The ship moved through the system slowly. Mars was still there, but it was different. The red planet was now black, its surface turned to glass. The moon was cracked in half, the pieces drifting apart. Jupiter's moons were gone. Saturn's rings were scattered. "They didn't just destroy Earth," Ryan Cooper said. "They destroyed everything. They wanted to make sure humans could never come back." Megan Phillips had been working on the alien communications. She had intercepted. "Commander, I've decoded more of their messages. The Zorvath are part of something called the Galactic Council. There are 5 major species that control most of the galaxy. They're all talking about us now. They're scared." "Good," Amy Walker said coldly. "They should be." "There's more," Megan continued. "I'm finding references to human slaves. Commander, there are humans alive out there, millions of them. They're being sold in markets. They're being used for labor. They've been slaves for 300 years. The bridge erupted in anger. "Kyle." Bennett slammed his fist on his console. Ashley Brown cursed in 3 languages. Even the usually calm Dr. Adams looked furious. Jake raised his hand for silence. "Where are these slaves?" "Everywhere," Megan replied. "Every major alien world has them. The Zorvath Empire uses them in mines. The Krellin Federation has them as servants, the Voidlings. The Voidlings use them for entertainment. What kind of entertainment? Tony Martinez asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Megan's face was pale. Fighting. They make humans fight each other to the death. For sport. The anger on the bridge turned cold. It was one thing to destroy Earth in war. It was another to keep humans as slaves, to use them for entertainment, to breed them like animals for 3 centuries. Plot a course for the nearest slave market, Jake ordered. We're going to free our people. Commander, Dr. Adams said, I've been analyzing our weapons. The gravitational lance is powerful, but it has limits. We can't fight the entire galaxy with one ship. Then we wake the others, Jake replied. Megan, can you send the activation signal to the other sleeping ships? Already working on it, she said. But Commander, the signal will take time to reach them. They could be anywhere in the galaxy. Then we start without them, Jake decided. Kyle, what other weapons do we have? Kyle pulled up the weapons inventory. Antimatter torpedoes, nanoswarm dispensers, something called the Omega Protocol, but it's locked. I need command authorization to even read about it. Jake placed his hand on the scanner. The computer recognized him and unlocked the file. Kyle read it, his face going white. Commander, this is a planet killer. It destabilizes molecular bonds at the quantum level. It can crack a world open like an egg. Earth's final gift, Jake said grimly. They built it in the last days, when they knew we were losing. They wanted to make sure we could hurt them back. The Vengeance arrived at a Zorvath colony world called Threshold. It was a trading hub where slaves from across the Empire were bought and sold. The planet had 2 billion Zorvath citizens, and according to intercepted records, about 50,000 human slaves. The planetary defense fleet moved to intercept them. 20 ships, each one armed with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their commander appeared on screen, a young Zorvath with bright purple scales. Human vessel, you are under arrest for the destruction of 3 Imperial dreadnoughts. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Jake did not even respond. He nodded to Kyle, who fired the gravitational lance. 5 enemy ships crumpled and exploded. The others scattered, firing wildly. Their shots hit the Vengeance's shields and did nothing. Danny Torres flew the ship like he had been born to it, dodging the heavier attacks while Ashley Brown returned fire with antimatter torpedoes. Each torpedo deleted an enemy ship from existence. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where a ship had been. Within 10 minutes, the defense fleet was gone. The Vengeance moved into orbit above Threshold. Jake opened a channel to the planet below. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth warship Vengeance. You have 1 hour to release every human slave on your world. If you do not comply, we will take them by force. Any resistance will be met with deadly force. The planetary governor appeared on screen. He was old, his scales faded to gray. You cannot threaten us. We have 2 billion citizens. You are one ship with what, a dozen humans? You cannot hope to win. We don't need to win, Jake replied. We just need to hurt you badly enough that you never forget. 1 hour. Free the slaves or face the consequences. Jake cut the communication. He turned to Tony Martinez. Prepare a landing team. If they don't free our people, we'll do it ourselves. Tony nodded and left the bridge. But before he could assemble his team, something unexpected happened. Shuttles began launching from the planet's surface, dozens of them. Each one packed with humans. The slaves were being released. But as the shuttles approached, Megan detected something wrong. Commander, those shuttles are rigged with explosives. It's a trap. They're trying to destroy us when we bring them aboard. Jake's face hardened. They're using our own people as bombs. Kyle, can you disable the explosives? Not from here, Kyle replied. But I can use the gravitational lance to hold the shuttles in place while we figure something out. Dr. Adams had an idea. The nanoswarm. We can program them to eat only the explosive materials. Leave the shuttles and people untouched. Do it, Jake ordered. A cloud of microscopic machines flowed from the Vengeance. They swarmed over the shuttles, consuming the explosives in seconds. The shuttles, now safe, were brought aboard. 50,000 humans, thin and scarred from centuries of slavery, stepped onto the Vengeance. Many of them had never seen a human warship. Some had been born in slavery and did not even know what Earth had been. They looked at Jake and his crew with a mixture of hope and fear. An old woman, bent from years of hard labor, approached Jake. "Is it true?" she asked. "Are you really here to free us?" "We're here to free all of you," Jake promised. "Every human in the galaxy." The woman began to cry. Others joined her. 300 years of suffering, and finally, someone had come for them. But Jake was not done with Threshold. He returned to the bridge and opened a channel to the planet. "You tried to kill us with our own people. You used them as weapons. That was a mistake." He turned to Kyle. "Target their capital city. 1 antimatter torpedo." "Commander," Dr. Adams said, "that will kill millions of civilians." Jake hesitated. He was not a monster, but these aliens had enslaved his people for 3 centuries. They had just tried to use human slaves as living bombs. They needed to learn fear. "Target the government district only," he amended. "Minimize civilian casualties." Kyle fired. The torpedo streaked toward the planet. It hit the government complex and erased it from existence. A perfect circle of nothing 3 miles wide appeared where the Zorvath leadership had been. The message was clear. Humanity was back. And they were angry. The Vengeance left Threshold with 50,000 freed slaves. They needed a place to take them, a world where humans could be free. But first, Jake had another destination in mind. "Set course for Zorvan Prime," he ordered. "The Zorvath Empire's capital." "Commander?" Lisa said. "That's the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. They have 500 ships protecting it." "Then they'll need more," Jake replied coldly. As they traveled through hyperspace, Jake walked among the freed slaves. He heard their stories. Generations born in chains, children taken from parents, humans bred like animals. Each story made him angrier. When they arrived at Zorvan Prime, the entire Zorvath fleet was waiting for them.